We're now going to finish example 2. And just to recap, example 2 involved looking at the weight of adult male huskies. Now there was a mean of 52.4 and a standard deviation of 2.4 pounds. And that's highlighted here. So there's a mean of 52.5 and a standard deviation of 2.4. So one standard deviation higher and one standard deviation below, and that will involve 68% of all the animals. Then we have two standard deviations below and above, and that involves 95% of all animals. And then three standard deviations out from the mean. So again, 1, 2, 3, and 3 above, and that will involve 97.7% of all the animals. Okay. So the question now, what percent of adult male dogs at Jim's Kennel would expect to have a weight between 47.7 and 54.9 pounds? We'll look at the percentages here to figure this out. So 68% is shared between one deviation above and below, so it should be 34% here and 34 there. Now since we're interested just between 47 and 54.9, so we'll look only at the percentages involved in this area. So we're only going to look at these three regions. And there's another 34% there to give us 68 in total. Now here, we need to figure out what percentage is between one deviation here and there. Now what we need to take a look at is that it might be 95% between here, this interval, and there, but we have to keep in mind that 68% of the information is tied up in this region here. So we're concerned with how much is left in just these two bars. So we're looking at 95% in total in this span. 68% is tied up within one deviation above and below. So we will be left with 27% spread in this area and that one there. And it should be spread evenly or distributed evenly. So if we took our 27% and divide by 2, each of those regions should be 13.5%. Now, so I'll just clean this up. And what we know is that we have 34% here, 34 there, and 13.5 there. So we have 68% plus 13.5. So our answer would be, we would expect to have 81.5% of all dogs to have a weight between 47.7 pounds and 54.9. Now, before we answer our next two questions, let's just get a review of the percentages in each of these areas. So 68 in these two regions, so again that would give us 34. It's 95 in these four, but 68% is tied up in these two regions. So again, it will be 27% that was left over, spread between the two regions. So we would have 13.5 in each of those. To figure out the percentage left in the extreme left and the region here at the right, we have to keep in mind that 95% this whole of the information here is tied up. So that will leave only 4.7%. So if 99.7% of the information counts from one green line to the next, we have 95% already tied up here in this space. So the remainder is 4.7. So how much evenly distributed between both of those regions? It should be 2.37. Oh, sorry, 2.35 in each region. Now we'll use that to answer the next two questions. So what percentage of male dogs would we expect to have a weight between 50.1 and 59.7? So 50.1 and 59.7. Well, we're going to count our percentages up through here. So we have 34 and 34, so we have 68 plus the 13 plus 2.35. So, oops. Now we add our percentages. So we have 83.85, or approximately 84% of all the animals having a weight between 50.1 pounds up to 59.7. Now for our last question, we're asked what percent of adult male dogs at the kennel will we expect to have a weight less than 45.3 pounds. So we're interested in this pink region here. Now to find out the distribution or the percentage in this pink region, we need to keep in mind that from this green line to that one there, so all of the information here all the information inside this region, as we look across, is accounting for 99.7% of all the dogs. Well, if that's accounting for only 99.7%, keep in mind if we talk about all the animals, that would be 100%. The distribution shown is accounting for 99.7%. So there should be 0.3% remaining. And that has to be spread over both of these regions. And it has to be spread evenly. So it should be 0.15 in both areas. So we would expect to see 0.15% greater than 59.7 pounds and 0.15 less than 45.3. So our answer here will be 0.15%.